Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. I never thought this would happen to me. I used to believe I could spot a betrayal from miles away. Trust was something I'd always demanded, and I thought I gave it in return. But life, as it turns out, is full of shocking turns. Sometimes, you don't see the cliff until you're already falling. That night began like any other. We were at a nice restaurant, the kind where you make a reservation weeks in advance because the food is so good that you need to plan ahead. It wasn't an anniversary, a birthday, or any other special occasion. I was simply looking forward to a quiet evening out with someone I thought I knew better than anyone else. I should have known something was off the moment I saw her. No, not her, exactly, my fiancée, Nina, but something in her demeanor. There's a look that people get when they're hiding something they think no one will catch. Her smile was a little too forced, her laugh a little too loud. Every glance she threw in my direction had a flicker of something strange. I could tell that whatever had been consuming her attention the past few weeks, it wasn't me. We sat down at our table. She was still tapping her phone under the table as the waiter took our orders. She claimed she was just checking work emails, but I knew better. There was something more. The frequency with which she checked her phone was almost obsessive. And she wasn't exactly replying to emails. She was scrolling through something, her face lighting up in an almost guilty way every time her screen flashed with a new message. It was the constant silence that unsettled me. The usual back-and-forth conversations we used to have, where we'd share stories about our days, laugh about something silly, or talk about future plans, had vanished. Instead, she kept glancing at her phone, her words coming out in short, distracted sentences. I'll admit, I wasn't the best at reading situations, but I've always prided myself on being observant, and this time, I wasn't about to ignore my instincts. The longer I sat there, the more I felt like I was being shut out. It was as if I had become invisible to her, sitting across the table, but she was in a world of her own. At some point during the meal, it became clear that I wasn't the only one at the table anymore. Her attention was no longer on me. It was elsewhere. My stomach sank as I watched her face light up in that familiar way, the one she reserved for the text she didn't want me to see. Her eyes sparkled with something that wasn't affection for me. It was excitement, adrenaline, like she was sharing something she couldn't share with me, something she wanted to keep hidden. "Who's that?" I asked, the words leaving my mouth before I could stop them. She froze, her fingers pausing mid-text as her head jerked up, her eyes meeting mine. There it was, fear. The kind of fear you don't get from something insignificant. "It's just work," she mumbled, looking away quickly, but I could tell she was lying. There was something too rehearsed about her answer. I didn't push it then, though. I let her off the hook for that moment. I wasn't going to ruin the night, not yet. But the pit in my stomach kept growing. That gut feeling? It didn't lie. We continued through the dinner, but the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point, one that I hadn't seen coming. As the meal dragged on, she excused herself to the restroom. I stayed seated, watching the soft glow of the candlelight flicker across the table, the quiet hum of conversation from other patrons in the background. And then it happened. Her phone buzzed again. This time, the screen faced up. I didn't want to look. I tried not to, but I couldn't help myself. There it was, in bold letters at the top of the screen. "I miss you. I'll see you in a bit." It felt like the world stopped spinning for a second. That wasn't just a work friend text. That wasn't a simple office update or a check-in about a project. The message was intimate, personal. It held a weight to it, one that I couldn't ignore. When she came back to the table, she smiled at me, but I could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes as she sat down. She didn't say anything, but she knew. We both knew. But I didn't say anything either. I didn't make a scene. I didn't accuse her of anything. Instead, I waited. I needed her to be the one to confess, not me to confront. It was a game I had to play, a trap I set without knowing the outcome. I finished my meal, pretending everything was fine, when in reality, my mind was racing. It wasn't until we left the restaurant that I saw it in her eyes, panic. Her phone buzzed again, and this time, she didn't even try to hide it. She looked down at the screen, her face blanching. Without thinking, I reached out and grabbed her phone. I wasn't even sure if I was angry or just desperate for answers. I wasn't looking for validation. I needed the truth, even if it would shatter me. The text I saw nearly broke me. "I can't wait to see you tonight, Nina. Let's make it count." I didn't have to ask any more questions. The truth was right there in front of me. My fiancée, the woman I had planned to marry, had been seeing someone else. Someone who wasn't just a work colleague. Someone who clearly meant more to her than I did. She tried to grab the phone from me, but I stepped back. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice steady, but inside, I felt like I was dying. Her face twisted in anguish, but there was no more denial. No more lies. "It's not what you think," she began, but I stopped her. "You've been seeing him, haven't you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "For how long?" Tears welled in her eyes, but there was no answer. And I knew, in that moment, that this was over. I could feel the anger rising in me, but I didn't explode. I didn't yell. Instead, I did something that I thought I'd never do. I walked away. Right there, in the parking lot, I left her standing alone, holding her phone, with no one but the night sky to keep her company. I didn't know what was coming next, but I had finally reached my limit. And now, I was going to find out exactly who she had been meeting all along. I should have known something was off long before that night. Looking back, it's almost like I was blind to the little things that added up over time. But I guess when you're in a relationship, you get comfortable. You trust that things are steady, that you don't need to question the person you're with. But now, I couldn't unsee it. The truth was there, staring me in the face. And for the first time in a long time, I couldn't breathe. I stood there in the parking lot, watching Nina's figure get smaller as I walked away, my mind racing. What now? Was I supposed to confront her then and there? Was I supposed to let her explain herself? But the truth was, I didn't want her explanation. I wanted to hear it from him. The person she'd been texting, the person she'd been seeing behind my back. I needed to know who this guy was, how long it had been going on, and most importantly, why. Why had she felt the need to do this? I didn't call her. I didn't send her a single message. I didn't even look back as I drove home. But as I walked into my apartment, I realized I was already piecing things together. The late nights she'd been working, the sudden, unexplained trips, the extra time spent on her phone, all those times I tried to get closer to her only to feel like I was being shut out. It all made sense now. But it wasn't enough. I needed answers. The next day, I didn't reach out to Nina. Instead, I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I decided to dig. I wasn't proud of it, but at that point, I didn't care. I had to know who this other man was. And I was going to find out. I had access to her social media accounts, though I never really checked them. That wasn't my style. But today was different. I sat down at my desk, my fingers trembling as I typed in her username on Facebook. A few clicks later, I was deep into her friend list. My stomach twisted as I started scrolling. And then I found it. A profile, not too far down the list, with a name I didn't recognize, Ethan Mitchell. I clicked on his profile, trying to act casual, though my heart was hammering in my chest. He was a good-looking guy, tall, athletic, and smiling in every photo. There were pictures of him with Nina, lots of them. They were at bars, at parties, at dinners. All the while, I'd been completely in the dark, thinking she was just out with friends. I scrolled down further, my hands sweaty, my mind spinning. But then, something caught my eye. A message exchange between them, visible, like she'd left her phone unlocked. "I can't wait for tonight. I've been counting the days. Are we still on for the hotel?" That was it. That was the moment the floor beneath me seemed to disappear. I had been so naive, so foolish, believing in the idea of us. There was no work project, no innocent late nights. There was only him, only Ethan. I couldn't look at her the same way after that. I couldn't even imagine going back and pretending everything was fine. I knew what I had to do, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to confront her. I didn't want to hear the lies, the excuses, the half-hearted apologies. I needed answers, real answers. But I was going to get them, even if it meant tearing everything apart. I couldn't shake the image of Ethan's profile. His face, his smile. It all felt like a betrayal, a cruel reminder of how blind I'd been. But there was something else in me now, something sharp and cold. I wasn't just angry. I was determined. I needed to know how deep this went, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. Nina had kept her secrets for far too long, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The worst part was, I had no idea what Ethan meant to her. Was he just a fling? A one-night thing? Or was this something more? I didn't know, but I was about to find out. I couldn't confront Nina directly. Not yet. If I did, she'd just spin another lie. I knew her well enough to understand that. So, I came up with a plan. It wasn't sophisticated, but it was simple, and it would give me the answers I needed. I would follow her. I would track her every move, make sure she couldn't hide anything from me. It started that afternoon. I didn't reach out to her. In fact, I let the entire day pass without even texting or calling. I knew if I stayed silent, if I played the game, she would reach out to me first. And sure enough, by evening, the text came through. "Julian, where are you? We need to talk." I stared at my phone for a long moment before replying. "I don't think there's much left to talk about, Nina." I could almost feel the tension on the other side of the screen. But she didn't back down. Her reply came quickly. "Please, just meet me. I swear, we can work through this." I didn't respond right away. My fingers hovered over the screen, tempted to send something sharp, something that would hurt her the way I'd been hurt. But then I thought about it again. I didn't need to make a scene. Not yet. I was playing the long game. Instead, I wrote, "Fine. Let's meet. But I have conditions. You don't get to lie to me anymore." I set the time and location. She didn't hesitate to agree. That's when I decided it was time to put my plan into motion. I had to know where she was going, who she was meeting. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The night of our meeting, I kept my distance. I didn't want her to know I was following her. I watched her from a few blocks away as she walked down the street, glancing down at her phone every few seconds. She didn't seem nervous. If anything, she seemed eager. I wasn't sure how long I followed her. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour. She finally stopped outside a bar, a place I recognized. I hadn't been there in years, but I knew the type of people it attracted. It was the kind of bar where people went when they wanted to hide, to meet without anyone knowing. She paused for a moment, checking her phone one last time before walking inside. I stood there, rooted to the spot. My heart was pounding in my chest. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I knew exactly who she was meeting. But now, I needed to confirm it. I wasn't about to let this go without a fight. I watched from a distance as she entered the bar. Then I waited. I waited until I saw him. Ethan. The same guy I had seen on her social media. He walked in a few minutes later, his smile as smug and self-assured as ever. I almost couldn't breathe. There they were. Together. The lies, the secret meetings, it was all real. I watched them chat, exchange glances that were too intimate to ignore. He reached out and touched her arm, his fingers brushing her skin in a way that made my stomach churn. They weren't just colleagues. They were something else. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I couldn't approach them, not yet. I needed to let this play out. I watched them for another hour, their conversation flowing, their laughter carrying out into the street. She was smiling, leaning in as if she didn't have a care in the world. Meanwhile, I stood there, in the shadows, feeling my world shatter. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not like this. They had no idea that I was watching, no idea that I knew exactly what was going on. I didn't need any more proof. I had seen enough. It was time to confront her, to finally expose the truth. I turned on my heel and walked away, my mind already working through what would come next. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The images from the bar kept replaying in my mind. Nina laughing with him, touching his arm like they were more than just colleagues. It was all a lie. Everything we'd built, every moment I thought we shared, it was all tainted by her betrayal. The next morning, I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me wanted to call her, to yell at her and demand she explain herself. But another part of me knew I had to be careful. I wasn't going to let her twist the story, make me out to be the crazy one. She had lied to me for months, and now, it was my turn to take control. I waited until late afternoon to text her. "We need to talk. Now." She responded immediately. "I know you're upset, but please. No excuses. I'm not waiting any longer." She agreed to meet me at a quiet park nearby. I arrived first, pacing back and forth, the anticipation gnawing at me. When she showed up, she looked nervous, her face pale, her eyes darting around as if she was looking for an escape. "Julian, please, can we talk about this?" she started, her voice shaky. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I saw you last night. At the bar. With him." Her face froze, and for a moment, I saw a panic flash in her eyes. But then she quickly masked it with a forced smile. "It's not what you think," she said, stepping closer to me. "Ethan is just a friend. We've been talking, yes, but nothing has happened between us." I laughed bitterly. "A friend? You're really going to stand here and tell me that? I saw how you were with him. Don't insult me, Nina." Her eyes flickered with guilt, but she quickly tried to regain her composure. Julian, I swear, it's complicated. I didn't want to hurt you. It's just, I've been feeling so disconnected lately, and Ethan, he's been there for me. He's just a shoulder to lean on. Nothing more. Is that what you've been telling yourself? I shot back. Because that's not what I saw. What I saw was you, falling into his arms, pretending like I didn't exist. I could see the struggle in her eyes as she tried to come up with something, anything to explain herself. But it wasn't enough. I had already seen the truth. I don't know why you're doing this to me, Nina. What happened to the person I thought I knew? I asked, my voice cracking. You've been lying to me for months. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. I never meant to hurt you. It's just, it wasn't intentional. It started with small things, a few texts, and then it became more. I didn't want to ruin everything we had. You already did, I said, cutting her off. The worst part is that you never thought I'd find out. You thought you could keep this from me forever. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't want her tears. I wasn't ready to feel sorry for her, not yet. Not when she had done this to me. I never wanted to cheat on you, she whispered, but I wasn't happy. I've been so lost, Julian. I thought maybe I could fix things on my own, but now I see I can't. I've ruined everything. I looked at her for a long moment. I didn't feel the anger anymore, just a hollow emptiness. You've already chosen Nina. You've chosen him, and I'm done being the second choice. Her face crumpled, but it didn't move me. I was past the point of caring. I want you to leave. I need you to go, I said, my voice steady now. She nodded, looking down at the ground. Without another word, she turned and walked away. I watched her leave, her silhouette fading into the distance. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of calm. The confrontation was over. But the real question was, what now? What came next in a life that had just been completely torn apart? The days that followed felt like a blur. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Anger? Relief? Disappointment? The truth was, I didn't feel much of anything at all. I had convinced myself that once I confronted Nina, I would feel some sense of closure, that everything would finally make sense. But it didn't. I was left with this cold, hollow emptiness. The weight of what had happened kept pushing me down, but the anger I'd expected to feel never fully came. Maybe it was because the betrayal was so deep, so painful, that there was no room for rage. It was just numbness. I didn't speak to Nina after that day. She reached out a few times, trying to apologize, but I ignored her calls and texts. I didn't need her explanations anymore. I didn't need her to tell me she was sorry or that she hadn't meant to hurt me. It didn't matter. The damage had been done, and I wasn't sure how to fix what was broken. A week went by. I threw myself into work, hoping that keeping busy would somehow make things easier. But no matter how many hours I put in or how many emails I answered, there was always a part of me that lingered on the betrayal. It wasn't until I received a message from an unexpected source that everything changed. It was from Ethan. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Why would he be reaching out to me? What did he have to say? But the message was clear, direct, and unsettling. Julian, we need to talk. There's something you don't know. I almost deleted it without reading further. But something in me stopped. I don't know if it was curiosity or the nagging need to know the full truth, but I responded. What could you possibly have to say to me? I typed, my hands shaking as I hit send. His response came quickly. I'm not who you think I am. And neither is she. I stared at my phone, unsure whether to believe him or not. I had so many questions, but part of me felt like I was walking into a trap. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something else going on, something Nina hadn't told me, something even worse than what I had already uncovered. Come meet me, Ethan wrote. You'll understand everything once you hear it. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. We set a time for the next evening, in a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. I had no idea what to expect, but I had to know. I had to hear him out. The next day, I tried to prepare myself. I didn't know what Ethan could possibly have to say that would change my perspective, but my instincts were telling me this wasn't over. I had a gut feeling that there was something more I needed to uncover, some piece of the puzzle that would explain Nina's behavior and Ethan's involvement. When I arrived at the cafe, I saw him sitting at a corner table, his posture rigid, as if he was waiting for something or someone. He looked up when I entered, his face neutral, but there was a strange calmness in his eyes. The kind of calmness you have when you know something the other person doesn't. Julian, he said, standing up to shake my hand. His grip was firm, but there was no warmth behind it. Thanks for meeting me. I didn't sit down immediately. I crossed my arms and stared at him. I'm not sure why I'm here. I don't owe you anything. Ethan nodded, his expression unchanging. I know, but you need to hear what I have to say. This isn't just about Nina and me. The words stung more than I expected. What do you mean? He motioned for me to sit, and I reluctantly took a seat across from him. Ethan's eyes flickered, as if he was measuring me before speaking. I'm not the guy you think I am, he said quietly. I'm not just some random guy she's been seeing. We have history, and it goes back further than you know. My stomach dropped. History? What was he talking about? I thought about Nina and all the time she had spent with him. The texts, the late nights, the lies. It didn't make sense. I don't understand, I said, my voice low. You're telling me there's more to this than just her cheating on me? Ethan leaned in slightly, his eyes narrowing. Yes, much more. And if you don't hear me out, you'll never get the full picture. I felt a wave of unease wash over me. What could be worse than what I already knew? He hesitated for a moment, then spoke in a hushed tone, as if he was afraid someone might overhear. Nina didn't just start this affair with me recently. We've known each other much longer than you think. And there's a reason she was acting the way she was. A reason you couldn't see because she kept you in the dark. I leaned forward, every part of me on edge now. What do you mean? What reason? Ethan sighed, as if the weight of what he was about to say was heavy. The truth is, she's been lying to both of us. The affair wasn't just a momentary lapse or a result of her feeling disconnected. It goes back much further. Nina wasn't the person you thought she was. I stared at him, trying to process his words. The more he spoke, the more it felt like I was peeling back a layer of a reality I wasn't prepared to face. This wasn't just about Nina's betrayal. There was something darker at play here, something I hadn't even begun to understand. But as Ethan continued, I realized the truth was far worse than I ever imagined, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear it. Ethan's words hung in the air like a thick fog. I could feel the weight of what he was saying, but I couldn't make sense of it. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice almost a whisper. The anger and confusion were starting to twist together in my chest. He leaned back, his gaze steady. Nina wasn't just seeing me behind your back. She's been involved with a lot more than you realize. And I'm not talking about some fling or affair. It's deeper than that. There's a whole side of her you don't know. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears as I tried to process what he was saying. My mind raced. What could he mean? What side of her? She's not the person you think she is, Julian, Ethan continued. I'm not the only one she's been hiding. There are others. His words struck me like a slap to the face. Others? How many others? What was Nina involved in? And how had I missed it all? I thought I knew her. How could I have been so wrong? I leaned forward, my hands clenched on the table. What do you mean, others? I demanded. Is this some kind of joke? Because I'm not laughing. Ethan's expression softened, but there was no pity in his eyes. Only something darker, like he knew something I didn't want to know. It's not a joke. She's been playing both sides for months, Julian. You were just a safety net. Someone to keep her life normal while she did other things. I felt the room spin. The words didn't sink in right away. I wanted to believe this was some kind of manipulation, some twisted attempt to make me feel worse. But there was something in Ethan's eyes that made me pause. He wasn't lying. Whatever was happening, he was telling the truth. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice shaky now. What do you want from me? Ethan looked at me for a long time before answering. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to make you see the truth before it's too late. Nina's been living a double life, and you've been the one left in the dark. I know you want answers, and I'm the only one who can give them to you. I didn't know whether to be grateful or furious. Part of me wanted to yell, to storm out of the cafe and never look back, but another part of me, I couldn't let it go. The pieces of this twisted puzzle were starting to fit together, and I needed to know the rest. Tell me everything, I said, the words coming out with more force than I intended. I need to know what she's been hiding. All of it. Ethan hesitated, glancing around as if to make sure no one was listening. Then, in a low voice, he started speaking again. It all started about a year ago, before you and Nina got engaged. She met someone else, a powerful person in her life, someone who offered her things she couldn't resist. The affair with me? That wasn't the start of it. That was just the symptom. She's been involved in something. Dangerous. My blood ran cold. Dangerous? What are you talking about? Ethan's eyes narrowed. It's not just about cheating, Julian. Nina's been involved in a whole network of people. People you don't know. She got caught up in something she couldn't escape from. And the worst part? She didn't want you to find out. She never wanted you to see who she really was. My mind was spinning. A network? A powerful person? Was Nina involved in something criminal? I had no idea what to believe anymore. But why didn't you tell me earlier? I asked, frustration bubbling up. Why wait until now? Ethan looked down at his coffee, tracing the rim of his cup with his finger. Because I didn't know what to do. Nina begged me to stay quiet. But then I saw how much she was lying to you. And I knew you deserved to know the truth. I couldn't keep protecting her anymore, not when she was ruining your life. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't find the words. I just sat there, staring at him, feeling like I was in a fog. Everything I thought I knew about Nina was falling apart. She wasn't the woman I'd fallen in love with. She wasn't even close. What do I do now? I finally asked, my voice small, defeated. Ethan's expression softened, but there was still a hardness in his eyes. You have to decide, Julian. Do you want to keep living in the lie, or do you want to face the truth? The truth about her, and about yourself? I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. But one thing was clear. I was done being in the dark. It was time to finally face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The weight of Ethan's words lingered in my mind long after I left the cafe. I barely registered the world around me as I walked through the streets, my thoughts spiraling. A network? A powerful person? I couldn't even begin to wrap my head around it. Nina, the woman I thought I knew so well, was living a life I couldn't have imagined in my worst nightmares. What had I missed? How had I been so blind? I kept thinking back to the subtle signs, the way she'd pull away when I asked too many questions, the late nights, the secrecy. But nothing seemed to fit. It was as if she'd been playing a game I hadn't even known I was in. I wasn't just the fool in a relationship. I was the fool in her entire double life. I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront Nina right then and there, to demand every detail, to get the full story. But deep down, I knew I couldn't trust her. Not anymore. She'd been lying to me for so long, keeping things hidden behind a smile and a few sweet words. I had to make a decision. Did I keep living in this shattered illusion, hoping that things might go back to how they were? Or did I finally face the truth, no matter how much it would hurt? I didn't know how to answer that, but I knew I couldn't live in this haze any longer. That evening, Nina texted me again. I hadn't responded to her messages for days, but she kept trying. Can we talk? Please. I stared at the message for a long time. I could feel the old desire to hear her side of the story, to listen to her excuses, creeping up. But I pushed it down. I wasn't interested in hearing her words anymore. I wanted action. I wanted answers, real ones. So I did something I'd never done before. I called her. When she picked up, there was a hesitation in her voice. Julian, are you okay? I could hear the edge of worry in her voice, but I wasn't fooled. It wasn't genuine concern. It was the kind of concern someone shows when they're caught, when they know their lies are about to unravel. I'm fine, I said, my voice cold. But I'm done with the games, Nina. She was silent for a moment, and then I heard her breath hitch. What do you mean? I know about Ethan, I said flatly. I know everything. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could feel the panic rising in her voice as she finally spoke. Julian, please, let me explain. No, there's no explanation left. I cut her off. You've lied to me for months, Nina, and I'm done being a part of your lies. Her voice wavered. Please, don't hang up. I know I've messed up, but I need you to understand. No, you don't get to explain this away anymore. It's over. I ended the call without waiting for her response. I knew there was nothing she could say that would make this right. I didn't need closure from her anymore. I needed to close the door on this chapter of my life. But as I sat there, staring at my phone, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. There was still something out there, something deeper that I hadn't uncovered yet. Ethan had told me there was more to Nina's story, but I hadn't gotten the full picture. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let her get away with whatever she was involved in. There was one thing I knew for sure. I couldn't walk away from this without finding out everything. The following days were a blur of emotions. The anger had faded, replaced by a sharp clarity. I had no more questions, no more doubts about what Nina had done. The life I thought I had with her was a lie. A beautiful, perfect lie that had unraveled in a way I could never have predicted. I couldn't shake the thought that I needed to do something. Something final. Something that would allow me to move on for good. I wasn't just going to walk away from all of this. I didn't need closure from Nina, but I needed to make sure she couldn't hurt anyone else like she'd hurt me. I spent a few days gathering information. I reached out to a few people I knew, people who could help me track down the network Ethan had mentioned. It wasn't easy, but I had a friend in law enforcement who was willing to help me dig into the details. After some digging, I discovered that Nina had been involved in more than just a personal affair. She was entangled in a web of lies, working with people who weren't just shady, they were dangerous. I knew I couldn't confront her directly anymore. This wasn't just about me. This was about stopping her from doing the same thing to someone else. I wanted to make sure she couldn't manipulate anyone the way she had manipulated me. It all came together when I found out about the people Nina had been associating with, the ones Ethan had alluded to. They weren't just some random associates. They were involved in illegal activities. Nina had crossed a line I couldn't ignore, and I knew I had to do the right thing. I gave the information to the authorities. I didn't want to involve myself further in their world, but I knew Nina needed to face the consequences for what she'd done. I wasn't doing this out of revenge. I was doing it because it was the right thing. She had hurt me, but I didn't want her to hurt anyone else. A few weeks later, I received a call from my friend in law enforcement. Nina was under investigation. Her involvement with a dangerous network was coming to light, and she was in serious trouble. It wasn't going to be easy for her to escape the consequences now. I didn't feel satisfaction when I heard the news. I felt relief. Relief that I'd finally taken control of my life, that I'd stepped away from the lies and taken action to protect myself from the mess she'd made of everything. I had finally closed the door on the past. As for me, I started to rebuild. I took time for myself, focusing on the things I loved, reconnecting with friends I'd lost touch with during the chaos of my relationship. Slowly, I found my peace again. I began dating, casually at first, and realized that I still had so much to offer to someone who would value me for who I truly was. One day, I ran into someone at a coffee shop. Her name was Claire, and she had a warmth about her that felt genuine. It didn't happen overnight, but over time, we grew closer. She wasn't perfect, but we connected in a way that felt real. She didn't lie to me, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe in something again. I never saw Nina again. After everything came to light, she disappeared, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The karmic balance had shifted, and in the end, Nina got what she deserved. The lies and deceit caught up with her, and I was free from it all. As for me, I'd found peace, not just with the past, but with the future. And that was all I ever needed. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all.